So what did you spend your money on last week? Eh? What did you spend your money on? You might well say, hey, it's none of your business too. Of course it's none of my business, and it should be none of my business. But this guy here, he wants to make it his business, and he runs the central bank institution that's the most powerful central banking institution on the planet. So your days of being able to spend your money in private may soon be over. This is The Beautiful Truth with Fintan Dunn reporting on the 5th of October 2021. And that guy there is Augustin Carstens, and he's the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements. That's the bank behind all banks, which puts him in a very powerful position, don't you think? And you never really hear much about the Bank of International Settlements in the mainstream media. It sort of quietly does its business behind the scenes. And what business is that? Right now, it's the business of rolling out digital currencies, which are an alternative to cash, with the convenience of, say, Bitcoin. And, well, actually, none of the privacy. Yeah, you'll find out more as we go on. He wants to roll out something that's the equivalent of cash, and it's going to be a big game changer, he thinks. You didn't hear about that. He's heard about it. He's planning it. He's doing it. So we better wake up to the big difference that this gives and the power it gives him. He's going to set up something which is, he says he intends to set something up which is the equivalent of cash. And then he goes into the advantages.
We tend to establish the equivalence with cash. And there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.
Now, let me translate that. You don't need much translation for the words absolute control, because those are the exact words he used when he described what kind of control he wants over your money. He said we will have absolute control over the expression of that central bank liability. Well, a central bank liability is their liability and your cash in your pocket. So the expression of liability he's talking about is your money. He wants absolute control over your money. The expression of central bank liability. And he says that the digital currencies they're rolling out will give them the technology to have that absolute control. Now, what would they do with that absolute control? Well, for example, what they might do if there was another inconvenient viral outbreak is they might make it no longer possible for you to spend your digital money on dining. So no need to monitor what's going on with restaurants, etc., because simply ceasing validity for those kinds of transactions would accomplish that. They could also do something else. They could, for example, in a similar scenario, decide to cut off the access to fuel of large numbers of people in particular areas of a country, or in all of a country, so that you can buy no longer any gas to go anywhere. They might, in fact, say, impose that if there were political difficulties after a disputed election, for example, and the government was concerned that those who were disputing the outcome, which the government claimed was the correct outcome, would engage in violent acts, and for public safety and their own safety, the government might decide that perhaps it would withdraw from those people access to fuel, preventing them from travelling and then organising to commit acts of violence. Of course, it would also stop them protesting at distance, wouldn't it? But hey, these are the kind of things you can do when you have that level of control. In fact, in particularly difficult situations where, let's say, a whole group of people were disputing what the government felt was a legitimate election outcome, then those persons might have all of their ability to spend temporarily suspended. Of course, they wouldn't be left high and dry. For food, etc., they could always go to the nearest approved processing facility where they could avail of food supplies free, without any difficulty. Now you'll notice one thing, maybe you didn't, about all of those extraordinarily undemocratic things which a government could do if it had the power to control what you can and can't spend your money on, right? Big power, huge power, and a power they don't have at the moment. But this guy here is absolutely determined to get that power.
Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
Yeah, that's Mr. Absolute Control. So here's the thing then. All of those things that they could do didn't need a single police officer for any of them. Didn't need a single soldier for any of those things. No need to go out and round people up when you can simply cut off their access to food and wait for them to show up due to starvation. You don't need anyone to enforce this if you have this level of control. A control more powerful than police and military is what we're discussing here. I'd like you to fully understand the implications of that. And if you think this guy can't do that and won't do that, well then just take a look at some more of this guy in action here.
Is significantly more complex. First, there is no unique number of metrics to define the target. Second, the number of prudential policy instruments that could eventually be used to preserve financial
it's working already.
is
Look,
large.
it just bore you to
Having
death.
different
That's how they're going to do
characteristics,
this.
but also
They're just
a
going to
variety.
grind away like this in these meetings at the Bank of International Settlements and just grind away relentlessly at introducing this. Slowly roll it out, make it attractive to people so that the convenience factor is being stressed all the time. Try and route government benefit systems through it as a key way of kicking this off, so that social welfare and other payments come through a digital currency system integrated with your smartphone. But you've just seen the level of absolute total social control over masses of people at the flick of a switch that's possible with this. I don't think we can wash it. What are people going to do? Well, you might say that they would move to gold, or, well, I don't think there's enough gold out there to be useful as a currency. Well, obviously its price would skyrocket through the roof, but this is a process that would take place over a long time, so I think it's quite possible that they would have legislation and confiscation of an instrument like gold as part of this deal as we went along. Silver as well is a commodity, so there is no viable alternative. We let them get away with this. We can't just use something else. We just have to hang on to dear old cash. Dear old crinkly, worn out, inconvenient, but liberty generating cash. Speaking of liberty generating, that was an interesting Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Oculus outage, wasn't it? It smacked to me more of a test, really, to test the reaction, see what the reaction would be to an internet outage of that nature, because there may come a time down the line when the presence or absence of large social media structures could be very politically useful to a totalitarian regime that wanted to get its way. And if the population had already been normalized to these institutions going down from time to time due to God only knows why and incompetence, and of course we have a general meme going on of vulnerability of internet to hacking, etc., etc., I think that there's a great danger there that the stage is being set in order to disarm your ability to organize through social media and find out what's really going on through social media at critical points. I certainly wouldn't like to depend on their infrastructures, and that's exactly why. I'm happy that just 24 hours before they did that, that we announced our upgrade of breakfornews.com and our independent video channel, of course, on Odyssey as well, because you cannot and we cannot rely on being able to get access to our favorite channels and find out, even from friends, what's actually going on. So we need to have independent channels outside of all that. So let's keep our channels outside of all that, and let's keep our cash, right? Get off their platforms and keep cash. That's my 2 messages, liberty enhancing messages for tonight. And I'll leave it at that for the moment. I will be back very shortly with more. Hope you join me for that. But in the meantime, for breakfornews.com, this has been Fintan Dunn reporting. Thanks for joining me, folks.
There are also important risks. First, the reliance of automated systems and external providers of technological services raises the risk of cyber incidents with a potential systemic impact. In addition, the extensive use of personal data by a possibly large number of players may affect the protection of sensitive information. Moreover, the supply of new products and services can attract customers who may not have the proper understanding of their characteristics and risks, thus raising consumer protection issues. Furthermore, some of these products, such as crypto assets,